This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have a fellow New Yorker coming to us. We're going to talk about VR. We're going to talk about what's happening in adjacent markets to the Halo sector and how he can help augment that experience. So Zvi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here, Pete. Thanks a lot.
Give a shout out to Dave Gallen for connecting us. You've been running a successful technology and content vehicle for several years now under CampusVR.com. So can you give us a little background on, it probably wasn't new for people to go in and do, videos and virtual tours of schools when you started this. So where did you see the opportunity? How did that kind of proliferate, and what's got the special sauce here?
Well, to be honest with you, the way everything got started was I was showing to my own children who were 12 and 10 at the time. I was trying to, plant the seeds of college and things like that in their brains. And so I went to a state school in New York State. That's a gorgeous campus. It's upstate. And I was just trying to show them where I went to school to sort of get them excited about the whole idea of, okay, we're about to enter high school, and et cetera, time to get the grades going so that we'll have the options necessary when it's our time to go to college. And so part of showing them and this whole generation as a whole, I would say, is you need to do more than show pictures and things like that. So when I went on my own school's webpage, and I'm not saying this to disparage them at anything, this is just my experience. They had pictures of buildings and parts of the campus, text scrolling across the screen to read about it. And the bottom line is that it totally turned my kids off to that school. They were not interested in looking at pictures. They certainly were not interested in reading text across the screen. But at that point, I was like, why don't, with technology what it is, and this is back in 2019, with technology what it is today, why couldn't they do better? It's a very, very, well-regarded, educational type school, very competitive. I'm like, we could probably do better. And so at that point, what I ended up doing was just, checking out other schools around the country, Ivy League schools, Pacific schools, Southern schools, and seeing what was out there in terms of VR experiences. And what I learned was there was stuff that existed in terms of click on a link and look at a picture and be able to scroll around and things like that. But again, it lacked, what I consider like the wow factor, the excitement factor that would keep youngsters today engaged. And so, at that point, I was like, there might be a market here, to try to, infiltrate, I guess. And it turned out that, I ran the idea by a couple of people, family and friends, had some investors, buy into it right away. And we're, not many, but a few. And we basically said, let's figure out how to make this better. And so, we took, space in a WeWork. We were in a building with a few hundred companies. It was around the summertime, and we were able to do individualized focus groups. Take one kid at a time, so that there's no outside influence, and ask, if we did this or if we did that, would this work better for you? And what we came up with was we had to create a moving experience in VR. The point and click model is outdated and it's going away quicker and quicker. Take that out of their hands, allow them to pause and look around wherever they want, but don't force them to click from point to point to point to point, because if you get 2 or 3 boring clicks in a row, it's over. And so, you lose it right there. And so, at that point, we had to figure out how to build a moving robot, that could navigate a college campus with all sorts of activity and stuff like that. And we did. And, the rest, I guess, from there is without being too long-winded, the rest is history. We launched a month before COVID. That was a double-edged sword. People were like, oh, well, it probably thrust you, front and center. And it did in a lot of ways. But at the same time, we were based in New York City, and, we couldn't do anything for about 6 months anyway. But it allowed us to make calls and get to know a lot of people. And, the rest is kind of history.
So, obviously we talk about this on at least every other podcast. The best ideas are from personal frustrations that have been solved by an entrepreneur. Actually, it's time to figure it out. What was your background before this? Did you have a tech background? Did you have any kind of user interface background? What were you doing before?
No, I have nothing even close. My background is in finance, and I learned how to to evaluate companies and you know look at companies in a different kind of way. What makes a company successful. I've seen many times over, um, a company have the most, not the, I don't want to say the most simple idea, but an idea that many people probably thought of over the years and were probably like, someone's got to be doing this. I hear that all the time, right?
Right.
And so, if you ever get one of those ideas, and I always tell people, you never know what's out there and you never know how far a great idea can go. You have to just do a lot of research. You have to commit yourself to research and look around and see if there's truly, a niche there to take advantage of. And like I said, we went through hundreds of focus groups, and we researched the sector inside and out. And at the end of the day, like once everything was in front of us, we realized that there was a big market here, and it's not just in admissions; it's extended to athletics. Very very high level collegiate athletics in this country. Some of the top programs in the country have hired us, and to show off their facilities in a way that's going to keep the recruit excited. It's worked so well that they've entrusted us into the locker rooms on game day, because okay, the facilities are great, but we really want to show off to the kid what it feels like to be a part of the team
Yeah.
on the most intense game day. So, when a basketball team will play Kentucky, for example, they're like, we want you here. We want to show that environment. And, we're brought in pregame, halftime, and postgame, if they win, to show off just how intense it gets in those locker rooms. Because once you put on a set of goggles, whether it's an Oculus or any other VR headset, and you feel as if you're sitting in the room with them, it takes the whole recruit experience to a whole other level. And again, it's just the kind of thing that the more and more people get wind of it, the more and more it makes sense to everybody. And like
Yeah.
you said, you would have thought that. Good. I'm sorry.
Yeah. In the college market, and I don't know if you have the stat handy or just like a rough estimate. How many people apply to a school, excluding COVID? How many people apply to a school without ever stepping foot on the campus?
A lot. I don't know the exact numbers, but especially like private schools and some of the more well-known schools. The fact of the matter is that most people, and this was the whole point of the company in the beginning also was, you know, you shouldn't have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account, a certain geographical location, the convenience of your parents being able to take you on a trip.
Right.
These should not be hindrances. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's many thousands of dollars, especially these days. And these are hindrances that create a sort of inequality in terms of who gets to see or who gets to attend the college that they really want to go to versus who's going to take what they can get because they don't have the option of going to visit.
Right.
What we do is basically bring the college to the kid versus the kid to the college.
So I got a lot of things kind of bubbling up here. I need to get out of my head to ask. If you think about a traditional health club or you think about a boutique fitness studio, I think during COVID, a lot of the fear of actually getting into a class might have been reduced because people were able to log into a class and find, oh, I could do a Pilates class, or I could do a high intensity training, and I don't have to be like a weekend warrior or like a triathlete, to get through this. So it kind of expanded the universe of people that will go into the bricks and mortar. My question for you is, let's say I owned, I don't know, I got a shirt here for Fit Nation, which happens to be a club in Queens, 25,000 square feet. If they were to call you up and say, hey, I want to generate more sales, I want people to click and buy memberships directly on my site, and I want to use your platform as basically the entire sales tool. Talk me through that conversation. What do you need to do? What's the result? What's like the average investment? And why isn't every health club and studio basically having their own VR where I can pop that on wherever I am, or if a friend has one, if I have one. And now I know, like, okay, I don't even have to go into the club and buy the membership online. I'll start working out tomorrow.
I mean, all great questions. Especially why don't they all have one by now? Which is the same thing I asked about the schools when I first started with that. But in terms of attracting people to join, a club, and you're saying 25,000 feet, which is enormous. You for us, it becomes a no brainer. We will just take our robot, because we have moving robots that we would roll, across, the floor, situate them in a class, whether it be a yoga or a cycling or whatever the class would be. And even if it's not, and have it available. Look, it's available on your mobile, it's available on your desktop. You can watch it and scroll around the screen in 360 degrees. But if you have a VR headset, if your kids have a VR headset and you put it on, well, you're going to feel as if you're actually walking through. And
It is.
again, it allows the club to then uh, sell it without having to have the person make the actual trip there. It's a way to
Yeah.
get, it's like a bridge almost, right? It allows them to get excited about what the club has to offer. Because every place has stuff that they want, that they have to offer, that just the majority of people just don't know anything about, right?
But you could. It's kind of like doing like I could do a robotic tour with your platform, and
Yes.
then have somebody say you want to take a tour, and then instead of like popping up a window that gives you a time, it says pop it on 3, 2, 1. Like I'm taking you on a tour right
Yeah,
now.
and you could also have it where, like, they go on these, there's like these big trade shows for gyms and things like that. And,
Yeah,
you could basically show everyone what your gym looks like, just by putting on a
yeah,
headset on them, and they're walking through, or this is what our classes are like. They're intense, or, and again, it's always going to take you to a different level when you have a VR headset versus not having one. Which I think is starting to kind of spread out there. Apple just announced that they're creating their own one, or they created their own one. It's extraordinarily expensive. I don't know how they expect to sell a bunch of them, but that's their problem, not mine. But it's
right.
the experiences you get when you put on a VR headset is unlike anything you're going to get selling it a different way. And again, if you're trying to reach a lot of people and you're trying to reach a certain clientele that probably has these VR headsets, you take your email list, you send them a link, they pop on their own goggles and they can take the tour. Like, we would record it ahead of time, walking through the gym in a couple of classes, showing off everything, if it's a spa, or if it's this, or if it's that stuff that they want to see. This might get people back to excited to be going to a gym again.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, COVID kind of threw all that into flux for a while.
Are you so how long does it take to let's role play here? I like what I'm hearing. One question I have about VR, because I haven't used one in a while.
Uh-huh.
When you say walk around
Yeah.
with the VR headset, are people basically like walking in their area? They're walking on a treadmill, or what are they doing?
No, 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 no. Because so they're not going to be actually exercising with the VR headset.
No, no,
What
no.
you're-
I'm just saying
yeah.
when I'm doing a virtual tour and I'm walking through the locker room, like, do I literally need to walk like straight down
No,
all the way and back? Or
no.
like
So
just kind of
right,
walk a little?
I understand what you're saying. So our robots do the walking for you. You're just standing still. So you'll be
Okay.
staying in your safety circle, but you'll
Okay.
feel as if you're walking, because you're going to be moving past everything. So what we do is we simulate the movement of a human. You got me?
Cheers. Now I understand how it works. Okay, cool. I went to one of these VR worlds a long time ago, and I said to the guy, they had like one of those like cat on a ledge type of thing
Mhm.
that they were doing, where like you have to like crawl onto it, and this was like VR 101 type of thing, or version one, and like you should not be concrete floors, because I've seen people going down.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I feel like a lot of these aerial drone views that you get of like when a stadium's getting built, they're like a time lapse. I mean, that's priceless. And I would suspect that people that are going on the VR technology that you guys have built, it's cutting labor hours out. It's getting people excited. It's like basically walking through a movie, if you will. And I don't know why we don't do that. So what would it cost for a health club to get their location mapped into how many minute tour is like the average?
for a health club, and again, we don't have any health club per se as clients. But depending on how big it was, I couldn't imagine it costing, more than like $7,500 or something.
Okay.
I have to figure out the markets and things like that. But a health club is easy. We would be able to be in and out of there. It wouldn't take us more than 4 or 5 hours to get every inch of space. Probably on 25,000 square feet, we'd probably get, I don't know, 30 or 40 gigabytes worth of footage. Ship it off to our editors in Chicago, and they take it from there and make magic happen. They put it all together. They put it in VR. They do all they have to do. And so it wouldn't really take that long or be that much. I mean, again, it's a way to reach a lot of people very,
Yep.
very quickly. Um,
And you got a
again,
monthly hosting fee on that, or what do you do?
nah, we take care of all that.
You just get it as like a executable file. You're ready to go.
Yeah, like what some places are doing now, and this is all evolving literally as we speak.
Yeah.
Like what some places are doing right now is they'll get a sponsor to sponsor the video for them. So, like Collegiate NIL will basically be like School X, Dunkin' Donuts. It's not Dunkin' Donuts, but let's just say any Starbucks will be like, we're going to sponsor the tour, but we want our logo superimposed on the screen. And so they'll be the ones to eat the cost but they get their marketing because people will stay on these videos for, and for a health club, it'll probably be about a 5 or 6 minute video. But if you get the headset on them, they're going to stay on for at least 4 to 5 minutes of it, which is what they call that dwell time, which is just a lot of time to be, taking a commercial for somebody. And I see it all day long.
I'm just saying I'm working out, dude. I was working out for another 5 minutes. I was in the club virtually.
Yeah, no,
Dave, dude, we got to talk about this because we should be able to find a sponsor to actually rip these videos, and then have somebody basically go to the club and say, "We'll do it for you." And whether it's a water company or one of our other relationships, and there's no other fee associated with that. So that's super interesting. So when you take a look at where the market's going, what would you advise if I had a health club? Would I get the virtual tour? Would you pop me into like every different kind of workout class and be like, hey, you can kind of experience the first X minutes of this class? It seems like the usage is kind of somewhat endless.
I think that what it comes down to, and it's been that way in the colleges and everything else that we've done, whether it's tourism or whatever. A lot of it comes down to seeing other people enjoying themselves, right? So if you have a class, for example, that has like I always say yoga because I'm a big yoga guy. I love yoga. So if you go to a yoga class and you see there's like rows and rows of people having a great time, sweating, getting their stretch on, and you'd be like, you know what, I can really use this. And look at all these people; they look like they're having a good time. That can be something that draws them in, or again, the people that are enthusiasts of cycling. If they were in a class and they see 50 people around the room on bikes, sweating, the instructor going wild, and if that's what they're into, and they put a set of goggles on, they feel like they're actually there. Like, I got to get there for real. The only next best thing is actually being in the room. So I would always suggest showing off, your weight piles, your machines, your studios, blah, blah, blah. And then I would highlight, not a few minutes, but just to show a little taste. It could be 15, 20 seconds of a yoga, cycling, one of those HIIT classes, anything, that can touch upon what, most people's tastes fall into, and in order to get them excited about returning to the gym and returning to, that specific gym, I guess.
So, as an entrepreneur, from a standpoint of, lessons learned, or, a quote or something of somebody stumbling upon an opportunity such as you did, which seemed to be like the most innocuous, it wasn't like you got into like some kind of, accident and rehabbed yourself, or like you had something that you had to like fix, from a health standpoint, and, biohack yourself. It was basically just observing an opportunity that was busted and saying, hey, I could do it better. So, if there are other entrepreneurs out there, what's your kind of, either a quote that you go to, or a line of advice that you should say, that's your kind of Zvi walk away?
I would just say, it's not necessarily a quote, but I would just say, never assume that an idea is already being, utilized. quickly, very quickly, when I was growing up, I grew up in a very mixed neighborhood, and for whatever reason, McDonald's was preferred over Burger King. And there was a Burger King across the street from a high school, and the Burger King just didn't succeed, even though there was a McDonald's half a mile away that was always packed. And you would imagine, being across the street from a high school, business should be booming, but it just wasn't the case. And I was 10 years old at the time, but I said to my parents, why can't we just open a McDonald's here? I mean, we didn't have the money to do anything like that. But just off the top of my head, they're like, well, blah, 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 maybe we'll see. Lo and behold, 2 years later, a McDonald's opened up there. This was when I was 12 years old. That McDonald's is still in business at that same location today. And it's one of their busiest McDonald's in New York.
Across from the high school.
Exactly in that spot where the Burger King stood.
Oh, where the Burger King was.
Yes. So that was my lesson at 12 years old. Never assume that
owes you like a royalty, or like maybe like a real estate broker fee or something.
I wish it was mine. To be honest with you, it's been so good over there. But at that point, you realize if you're a 10-year-old kid and you can come up with something, and again, that's not brain surgery. I'm no scientist, and I'm definitely not an engineer.
Right.
But there's just everywhere you look, there are ways to do things better. And if it comes down to just doing research, it opens up to everybody. You just have to be willing to put in the time. And then again, the entrepreneur rule is, don't expect to make anything for years, and don't let them shake you out of the game, because it might take 3 years before you land a huge client or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to be always willing to stay the course. I've just been very fortunate here. So.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, we'll get the word around. We're going to come up with some creative ideas, try and get this as a 2024 requirement for clubs to really jump on and help automate and get interest in their experiences. So appreciate you coming on. Good to meet you virtually.
Likewise, and thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.